Hey, everybody. It's time to start working on the actual long research paper or expanded essay for this class. We have been working really hard up to this point, and now we get to see it all come together, I hope. So I just wanted to make a video to explain what to expect over the next week, um, and to go over the long essay assignment or expanded essay assignment. So here's this list of upcoming tasks for the week, and I'll have this all posted in the weekly overview. First, watch for my feedback on your prospectus. And then watch my video on how to address opposing viewpoints. Um, I'll have links for you posted on those. For the draft that's due on Tuesday, I'd like you to write at least 1,200 words, not counting your works cited list. I'd like you to double space that. It can be a rough draft. You are getting these points based on completing a 1,200 word draft, not based on the quality of your writing. I'm not using a rubric with the draft. So if you get in 1,200 words, even if they're really weak, you're going to get 25 points, okay? Unless it's plagiarized. Don't plagiarize. Um, yeah, it's a draft. Get something down on paper that I can read and start giving you feedback, and that your peers can read and start giving you feedback. If it were me, my 1,200 word draft probably wouldn't have an introduction because I usually write my introductions last. I like to start in the body of my paper and figure out how to introduce it later. So if it were my draft, I'd have a note to the readers that said my draft or my intro will go here later. I might have a note to readers every once in a while, like I will be adding a paragraph on whatever. Okay, so you can do that if you'd like. So again, if you get your draft in on time, you'll get full credit for that as long as it's at least 1,200 words and not plagiarized. Um, and if it's late, it'll get half credit for a day unless you've gotten an extension. Okay, so on Wednesday, we're going to start the process of peer review. What'll happen is once the drafts are in, I'm going to put you in a group with 2 or 3 other people, and you will be expected to help each other with your drafts, give each other really helpful feedback. You had some practice with this when you looked at the sample paper on maternity leave. I will be giving you some detailed instructions about how to make the most of this. Mainly, I'm going to ask you to look at each other's content, support, and structure, and not worry about grammar or citation or MLA or any of the brown M&Ms. Okay? Um, also next week, while you're reading each other's peers and giving peer review, I'm going to be conferencing with each of you individually about your draft. The goal is once you have your draft in, I will read it and then we'll meet very briefly to talk about some of the bigger issues in your draft, what's going really well, and what I might suggest for your revision. Now, what I'd like you to do, the conferences are scheduled for the 11th through the 13th, and that is Wednesday through Friday. However, if you're ready to meet, if your draft is ready on Monday or Tuesday, I can meet with you then. Just submit your draft a little earlier, and I can meet with you earlier. That would be helpful to me to spread those conferences out along the week, throughout the week. Whatever you do, please sign up for your time early in the week, even if it's a later time in the week, so I can plan and prepare. I don't want to end up having to read everybody's drafts at the last minute. So get your drafts in and give me some time to prepare for those conferences. And then Friday, at the end of the week, your peer review for your classmates will be due. Again, I'll give you more instructions about that. So in the following week, November 17th, that's when your revised polished essay is due. Let's look at the requirements for that assignment. So here's the assignment that I posted on D2L. No, my cat is trying to shut down my computer. Sorry about that. She's on the sidelines pressing buttons. Your objectives are, oh, that's my cat. Sorry. Okay. The course objectives, or the paper's objectives, are to advance a debatable thesis and support it effectively with material that you've gathered through your successful research, and also to show that you've mastered the conventions of successful essay writing, the stuff you worked on in English 101. All of these requirements I'd like you to read. These each have to be met for you to earn a grade of C or better. Okay, so a specific position, in your thesis, and support from your research and clear reasoning. Address at least one opposing argument as well. This is why in your exploratory paper, I wanted you to understand both sides of your debate. 5 credible written sources, including at least one scholarly journal article and at least a couple OneSearch sources. Put sources in conversation, integrate the research skillfully, include your works cited list at the end, contain all the good English 101 stuff in terms of structure, organization, clear sentences, and so on. Okay, here's a word about formatting. I'm not too worried about that. It's not as important. Remember that the extent of the degree that you use your exploratory paper depends upon your newly polished up purpose. It might be possible that you can cut and paste some parts of that exploratory paper to give us some background on the debate. That will depend upon what you wrote in your exploratory paper and what you need to accomplish in that long essay. It's probably not as simple as just cutting and pasting your exploratory paper and adding a couple pages to that. You have to work the whole thing holistically to make sure it all works. Make sure you've been reading my feedback so that any feedback I've given you, you've applied as necessary, and so on. This paper is worth 200 points. These are the deadlines I discussed earlier. My goal is that if you are unhappy with the grade that you earn on this final version, there will still be a little bit of time at the end of the semester to do a revision if you want to. Okay, but to be eligible for that revision, it has to be submitted no later than the 23rd. Remember that with this deadline, Tuesday, November 17th, late penalties will apply after that. Okay, so if you haven't gotten an extension, the late penalty for formal work this semester is 5% per day, so that's 10 points a day. Here is the rubric that I will use. I'd like you to read this over really carefully. You can see it's a little more detailed than the exploratory paper rubric. So read this over very carefully so that you know exactly what I'm looking for when I'm grading. And finally, this is a difficult essay to write, right? This should challenge you. It should push your boundaries as a writer. You should feel like you're working. But also, you're prepared for this, right? You've done a prospectus, you've done the exploratory paper, you've done all these little steps, all this thinking about your paper that you've done in discussion posts and journals, so you are ready. If you've been doing all these steps, you are ready. And I really want to help you write a strong paper. So at our conferences this week, I'll be giving you honest feedback. I'm looking forward to talking to each of you, and be sure to let me know what I can help you with. I'll be happy to help you get there. All right? Email me with your questions or ask them at your conference. I'll see you soon.